And then let me give you one more. With regard to creation, is there one creator or many? Referring, in Surah Al-Mu'minun, it's talking about the creation, the human being, stage after stage as a fetus. And then it says, فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. So blessed be Allah, the best of creators. So the best of creators implies that there are other creators as well. Yet, Allah says in Surah Al-Zumar, Allahu khaliqu kulli shay'in, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in wakil. Allah is the creator of all things, and He is the guardian and disposer of all affairs. That verb khalaqa, to create, it also means to fashion or shape. And in that sense, there are other khaliqs besides Allah. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 110, Allah addresses Isa, reminding him of His favors upon him, and He says, وَإِذْ تَخْلُقُ مِنَ الطِّينِ كَهَيْئَةِ الطَّيْرِ بِإِذْنِهِ فَتَنْفُخُ فِيهَا فَتَكُونُ طَيْرًا بِإِذْنِهِ. And remember how you did shape, تخلق, from clay, what was like the form of a bird by my permission, and did blow upon it, and it became a bird by my permission. So human beings have the ability to make things in the sense of shaping, molding, and assembling. And obviously, if you compare Allah's creative abilities to that of a human being, human beings, they have to have something to fashion and mold. They have to have raw material. You can't create something without raw materials. Allah creates from nothing, and the precision of His creation. The classic thing when they show a microscope photo of a pin, which is very sharp, and then next to that they show a microscope photo of a wasp's stinger, and you see how blunt and pitted and gross the pin looks under the microscope, and then how precise the wasp's stinger is. And of course, no human being can give life to something that they make. Isa didn't give life to that bird. Allah, He gave life to it through Isa. And then, you have in Surah Safat, that Ibrahim, when he's talking to his people, قَالَ أَتَعْبُدُونَ مَا تَنْحِتُونَ وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَكُمْ وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Do you worship that which you yourselves carve, while Allah created you and that which you do, or that which you make? So, obviously, people have the ability to make, but it's very limited. And in that sense, Allah's the best of creators. You have another usage of creator in Surah Safat, verse 125. Idris, he's talking to, not Idris, Ilyas, he's talking to his people. He says, أَتَدْعُونَ بَعْلًا وَتَذَرُونَ أَحْسَنَ الْخَالِقِينَ. Will you call upon Baal and forsake the best of creators? Now here there's an implication that you have other deities which are creators. And that's really, obviously it's false, because there are no other deities. And there are no other creators in that sense. But he was addressing them in terms of their belief system. They believed that there were other creators. And despite that, they recognized the supremacy of the original creator. So, that's an example of this type of supposed contradiction. And just in passing, there was a famous thing that came out in the late 70s this claim that there's a numerical miracle in the Qur'an based on the number 19, and Ahmad Didat picked that up. And the person who came up with it was Rashad Khalifa, who claimed that he'd run the Qur'an through a computer, and he found these patterns. Ahmad Didat, without doing all the checking up that one should have done on that, he picked it up and he began to magnify that and talk about it all over the world. And then people started actually checking his facts and figures, and they found out that his numbers didn't really add up, and that he was sort of fudging his data. So, that whole idea of numerical miracles in the Qur'an has fallen on hard times. People are wary of it. There's somebody, I found a book in my university library the other day by an Egyptian named Abdul Razak Nawfal, called Al-I'jaz al-Adadi for the Qur'an al-Kareem, where he went through and he counted various words, and he found some interesting stuff. He said the mention of dunya and akhirah, they're exactly balanced, 115 times each. Mention of ash-shaytan and the angels, al-malaika, those two exact wording, ash-shaytan and al-malaika, they occur 68 times each. Then when you get all the derivatives of shaitan, like shayateen and shaitanan, shayatinihim, when you put all those together, you get 88. And then when you put all the derivatives of malak together, angel, you also get 88. And you come up with a couple of others that are, it's kind of interesting. But then he comes up with all these other things that he claims are, an indication of something miraculous, and there's nothing very compelling about the categories. He takes a word here and a word here, and he finds it. If you count it just right, they come out the same. There's no compelling connection between the categories. So this field remains one which is kind of dubious. It's not something that should be rejected utterly, but it certainly requires investigation before any great claims are made for it. So that's some aspects of the miraculous nature of the Qur'an. I wanted to get into the whole issue of an-nazm, how Qur'an, the apparent structure of it is that it doesn't seem to have much of a structure. It seems to jump around from one topic to another. But when you look at it carefully, it is tightly organized. So it looks like we don't have enough time for that in this lecture. When we get to that whole topic of thematic and thematic tafsirs of the Qur'an, and the whole school that looks at the Qur'an for coherence, inshallah we'll talk about that in much greater detail, and Allah knows best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.